Chapter 1 Young Wang Baifei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the deep mountains and old forests, ancient trees towered up to the sky, blocking out the sun. The trees were in disorder, and under the afterglow of the sun, they were dotted with light. There was a narrow path in the old forest, and a figure ran down the path. He looked young, about 16 or 17 years old, with cloth clothes and torn shoes, and a long strip of cloth hanging from his back. The bright red bloodstains on his back made him frown deeply while running away. The young man jumped down, stepping on the stones on both sides of the path. Each step was extremely accurate, and the speed was amazingly fast, not like an ordinary person at all. Behind him, a tearing roar sounded, shaking the forest. The birds that were originally resting in the forest were startled and scattered. After a long time, the ground began to shake, and the sound of dong 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 sounded frequently, and then became more and more dense. Damn it, just out of the cemetery, I encountered such a powerful beast. Baifei's figure followed the shadow, and the shadow moved with the wind. After a few flashes, he thought he could completely get rid of the pursuit behind him. However, they never expected that the beast behind them would reveal its fierce power, and its roar shook the world. Baifei, hurry up. In front of Baifei, a burly young man showed a look of shock, and his worry was very obvious. Let's go together. Baifei naturally couldn't give up his brother, and he caught up with the burly young man, and the two of them immediately flew away. The forest is located on a cliff of 10,000 feet. Under normal circumstances, if they jumped down like this, they would naturally die. However, what is incomprehensible is that the two did not fall under the cliff of 10,000 feet, nor did they die, but came to a flat ground. At this moment, a voice sounded in Baifei's heart. Baifei successfully completed the task of killing the purple moon wolf outside the Xiantian cemetery, and rewarded 100 points. Baifei panted heavily, and never thought that he really completed this first such difficult task. Fortunately, there are people from this world to help, otherwise, it would be really troublesome. Brother Xiao, if it weren't for you, I would have died in the hands of those beasts. I'm grateful for your kindness. Baifei bowed to Xiao Zhan and said, Brother Bai, you are too kind. I owe it to you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get the treasure. Xiao Zhan's words were not empty words. Although Baifei entered this map for the first time and his realm was low, he had a high talent and super strong combat power. Even though he had just entered the body refining realm, these warriors did not dare to underestimate him. Even Xiao Zhan in the spirit gathering realm was not his opponent. After all, Baifei was using a cheat. When he entered this map, the stronger his talent was, the stronger his combat power was. It was effortless to fight against opponents of higher levels. This is why he was given the title of the Young King. In fact, even Baifei himself did not expect that he had the ability to freely wear various world maps. He was just an errand disciple of the Blood Sword sect of Muyin City. This was the lowest existence in the sect. In order to become stronger, he tried various methods, but none of them worked. Just when he lost confidence, an accidental injury made him awaken the world map system hidden in his body. This world map system allows him to travel through various planes and maps of various worlds in the universe where he is currently located. In this world map, the master's talent can be brought to the extreme, and the strength is also multiplied. Sometimes he even doubts whether this person who is called the Young King in this world is really his. Baifei tightened the sword in his right hand, and slashed it out with a sword. The sword energy was like frost, and it was done in one go. It seemed to be an ordinary sword, but it broke a sword mark on the protective shield around the scene. As expected of the Young King, this sword is as terrifying as Kusi. The people around him didn't care about his realm at all, and they were all shocked by his terrifying combat power. Brother Bai, you are truly a god. How about we go to Xiantian Cemetery again next time? Xiao Zhan was also somewhat stunned when he saw Baifei slashing out a sword for no reason, but he was also a man who had seen the world, so he naturally recovered quickly. Brother Xiao, you are too polite. Let's talk about it when we have time. If we meet here again next time, it won't be too late for us to go and explore together. The map of Xiantian Cemetery is very large. It is not easy for them to enter the outer cemetery, not to mention the real core cemetery. Even if he is a young king, it is extremely difficult to enter. If you don't improve your realm, it will still be a bit troublesome. Xiao Zhan then left the scope of Xiantian Cemetery. After Xiao Zhan left here, a ray of light flashed on Baifei's body, and his body automatically disappeared from the spot. The next second, he appeared in a special space. This space is the internal space of the world map system, and it is the intermediate station for Baifei to transmit to various maps. Here you can receive tasks and exchange points for what you need. After coming here, he exchanged the 100 points he had just obtained for pills to improve his strength. With these pills, his strength will definitely have a qualitative leap. It is only a matter of time before he breaks through the realm. By then, he, Baifei, will no longer be just a chore's disciple. After doing all this, he disappeared into the inner space. Dongxian Continent, Blood Sword Sect, Red Sun Peak. He was lying in the small shabby house and suddenly opened his eyes. His majestic sword still appeared in his mind, and looking at the dilapidated hut at this time, it seemed like a lifetime ago. He swallowed the pills exchanged from the world map system directly. Because of this, his realm soared like a rocket. Level 1 of Body Refining. Level 2 of Body Refining. Level 3 of Body Refining. Level 4 of Body Refining. Level 5 of Body Refining. It stopped at the level 6 of Body Refining. As a warrior, going against the will of heaven, using pills to improve naturally has great disadvantages, but Baifei has the experience accumulated in the world map system, so he is naturally not afraid of bottlenecks. He is not afraid that using pills will cause the situation of pulling up the seedlings to grow too fast. Thinking of this, he finally showed a smile on his face. Baifei, where have you been? That the errand disciple should have stayed at his post all the time. As for Baifei, he was not seen for 3 days and 2 days, and the manager Ma Quan was so angry that he really wanted to beat him up. Brother Ma, I'm sorry, I was really busy before. Don't worry, I will definitely make up for the previous ones all at once in the next few days. Baifei patted his chest and promised. You want to make up 3 days' work in 1 day, are you sure? Ma Quan stared at him with suspicion. Of course. Baifei's domineering aura was naturally revealed, which was the extraordinary momentum that he naturally formed from his youthful self in that world. Ma Quan's legs softened instantly after being touched, and he fell to the ground. Baifei was also startled and hurriedly said, Brother Ma, what are you doing? If you have any problems, just tell me directly. I will definitely help if I can. Why do you have to do such a big gift? I really don't deserve it. Hearing this, Ma Quan rolled his eyes at Baifei. Do you think I really want to kneel down? You scared me. I don't know what you've been doing these 3 days. You've even cultivated the spirit of a turtle. Baifei scratched his head a little embarrassedly and said, I've made a small breakthrough in my cultivation recently. Ma Quan was very surprised. You know, the reason why he became a chore's disciple was because his blood was ordinary, not even yellow grade. For such a blood, it would be extremely difficult to have a breakthrough in 10 days or half a month, let alone just 3 days. Now he has made a breakthrough, which surprised Ma Quan. Did you really make a breakthrough? After being surprised, Ma Quan had deep doubts. There's no way. If you say an ordinary person suddenly becomes a master, anyone will doubt him. Absolutely true. Boom. Baifei did not show all his strength, but released his strength of the 3rd level of Body Refining, which seemed to be only a small 3rd level, but after feeling this momentum, Ma Quan began to lose his composure. Chapter 2, Passing the 9 Levels. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Ma Quan casually said a classic saying. Nothing is impossible. Since others can break through, I can also break through. Baifei naturally knew what Ma Quan meant by impossible. When he was tested for entry, everyone saw clearly that he was just an ordinary bloodline. It was already difficult to cultivate to the 1st level of Body Refining, and it was even more difficult to break through 2 levels in a row, but Baifei broke through in such a short time, and his momentum was much stronger than that of an ordinary 3rd level Body Refining warrior. This is simply incredible. Come with me. Ma Quan walked out of the house first. Baifei followed closely, and he had guessed what Ma Quan wanted to do. As a chore's disciple, if he wanted to become a formal disciple, he had to pass the sect's assessment. This assessment was not as simple as the previous entry, it was definitely not just testing blood. If you want to become a formal disciple, you must pass 9 levels. Once they can pass the 9 levels and become formal disciples, the strength of these formal outer disciples is generally much stronger than that of ordinary outer disciples. 100 years ago, there was a person in the Blood Sword sect who was also a Chore's disciple when he entered the sect, but he passed the 9 levels and became a formal disciple of the Blood Sword sect in just 1 month. Since then, this person has been like a wild horse that has broken free from its reins, moving forward without hesitation. He entered the top 10 of the outer sect in 1 year, and became a core disciple in the 3rd year. His realm breakthrough was unprecedented. In his generation, he was an absolute monster. Baifei had also heard of this legend, so when Ma Quan took him away, he was still looking forward to it. Despite his guesses, Baifei still asked, "Brother Ma, where are we going?" "To find Elder Chiu." Ma Quan said without looking back. Elder Chiu is the elder of the outer sect. He is responsible for all affairs of the outer sect, and he was also the leader of the entrance examination before. If Baifei wants to become a formal disciple, he must find him. Oh. Baifei responded and said nothing more. Not long after, they came to a cave, which was also the cultivation cave of Elder Chiu. "Elder Chiu, Ma Quan wants to see you." Ma Quan shouted loudly when he arrived outside the cave. "Come in." Elder Chiu's deep voice came from the cave. "Let's go in." Ma Quan said to Baifei, and walked into the cave. Baifei followed him after hearing that. When the two walked into the cave, they saw a large stone room, which was completely different from the outside. In the middle of the stone room was Chiu Feng, the outer sect elder of their Blood Sword sect. "Greetings, Elder Chiu." The two saluted in unison. "Xiao Ma, what do you want?" Chiu Feng knew who the visitor was without even opening his eyelids. "Elder Chiu, I came here for the matter of the errand disciple Baifei. A few days ago, he broke through 2 levels in a row and reached the 3rd level of body training. Can you give him a chance to break through the 9 levels?" Ma Quan asked respectfully. Hearing this, Chiu Feng finally opened his eyelids and looked at Baifei, with a gleam of light flashing in his eyes. Baifei, who was standing there, felt as if he was seen through and felt very uncomfortable. "Okay." Chiu Feng looked at Baifei deeply and said 2 words silently. At the same time, he took out a token from his waist and threw it to Ma Quan, saying, "Take this token to find the gatekeeper elder there." Ma Quan took the token and immediately said happily, "Thank you, elder." Baifei didn't expect it to be so simple, and he also said gratefully, "Thank you, Elder Chiu, for your help. You only need to pass 6 of the 9 levels, and you can become a formal disciple. Okay, you can go." After saying all this, he closed his eyes silently again. Baifei and the others then respectfully withdrew from the cave. When the two left the cave, Chiu Feng opened his eyes again, a slight smile appeared on his lips, and he said to himself, "I didn't expect that a monster would appear again 100 years later. I hope you can pass the 9 levels safely. Only those who have been inside know the difficulty of the 9 levels. The difficulties of each level are accumulated layer by layer. The first 6 levels are better, and the last 3 levels are even more difficult. In the past 100 years, many people have passed the 6 levels and become formal disciples, but the only person who has passed the 9 levels is the one 100 years ago. Even that person has experienced one of the 9 deaths before coming out. This also shows the difficulty of the 9 levels. At this time, Baifei naturally didn't know the pros and cons. When they left the cave, Baifei said to Ma Quan with an excited look, "Brother Ma, I have the opportunity to pass the 9 levels thanks to you. Once I become a formal disciple, I will definitely thank you." Ma Quan shook his hand and said, "I don't want to waste a piece of good jade on the errands, not to mention that it is extremely difficult to pass the 9 levels. You should make good preparations first. When you are ready, I will take you to pass the 9 levels." Baifei also knew that it was still very difficult to pass the 9 levels with his current strength. He remembered that when the man passed the 9 levels 100 years ago, his own realm had already reached the peak of physical training, and he was able to make a splash with his accumulated experience. Now he has just broken through to the 6th level of physical training, And he has not even settled down yet and is going to break through. It is undoubtedly going to die. In the past 100 years, many errand disciples have died in the 9 levels. If you rush, you will die. Each of the 9 levels is life-threatening. No one dares to try unless they have a certain level of strength. Baifei is not an idiot. He will not go without being fully prepared. However, if he has this opportunity, he will naturally seize it. I understand, Brother Ma. I will go back to prepare first. Not long after, the two separated. Baifei returned to his hut. Since he has to go through the 9 levels, Baifei will naturally continue to improve himself. Anyway, there is no time limit for going through the 9 levels. As long as he is ready, he can go. Therefore, he plans to improve his realm a little bit before going. However, he has just reached the 6th level of body refining. If he wants to practice and improve in a short period of time, it is obviously impossible. It seems that I still need to improve my cultivation through the world map system. Thinking of this, Baifei immediately sat cross-legged on his stone bed, sank into his mind, and his consciousness instantly entered his mind. The picture around him has also become a special space, which is the internal space of the world map system. At this moment, Baifei's clothes have changed. He put on a very gorgeous robe and a golden long sword appeared in his hand. His flowing long hair has been tied into a ponytail, and 2 strands of bangs hang down from the side, and his whole face is handsome. This is exactly what Baifei looks like in this world. It is also a replica of the original world. Enter Xiantian Cemetery and kill a 3rd-level beast, and you will be rewarded with 1,000 points. As soon as he entered the inner space, this voice sounded in Baifei's mind. This is the task that the world system will issue every time he enters the world map. As long as the corresponding task is completed, the corresponding points can be obtained. After this voice fell, Baifei was automatically teleported to a place, which is the outer periphery of Xiantian Cemetery, the first map given by the system. At this time, quite a lot of people have gathered here, and each of them is young. This is not the first time he has come here, so when he appeared, someone immediately recognized him. Young King, it's the Young King. Chapter 3 White Tiger Bloodline. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What Young King? He is just a waste at the first level of body refining. Just when everyone was shocked by Baifei's appearance, a discordant voice sounded at the scene. This is the periphery of Xiantian Cemetery, basically some warriors who have reached the dueling realm. No one dared to question the strength of Baifei, the Young King, even at the dueling realm, but when everyone saw this person, they all fell silent and stopped talking, because everyone knew this person. He was a frequent visitor in Xiantian Cemetery, and his cultivation had long exceeded the dueling realm, which was stronger than Xiaozhan. In addition, he had the blood of the white tiger and was quite powerful. No wonder the warriors around him did not dare to refute. Baifei frowned, glanced at this person, and said coldly, whether you are a waste or not is not determined by your words, everything must be based on strength. Really? So, you think you are very strong? That the other party sneered disdainfully. You can try. Even when he was at the first level of body refining, Baifei was not afraid of anyone, not to mention that he has now reached the 6th level of body refining, and his strength has improved by leaps and bounds. Unless it is a peak master of the gathering spirit realm, he does not take it seriously at all. Try it. I Yangling have never been afraid of anyone. Yangling looked down on Baifei, so he would not retreat because of Baifei's words. He suddenly rushed forward, with a pair of huge fists majestic and shining, and his figure turned into a shadow. He attacked Baifei without saying a word. That strong feeling, looking down from a high place, is like looking at an ant. In response, Baifei did not even look at him straight in the eye. With the golden sword in his hand, he slashed with a sword, and the sword energy was like a rainbow, like a half-moon scimitar, slashing towards Yangling. The fist and the sword energy collided, and a loud sound immediately broke out. Bang! That a strong wind swept out. The next second, a shrill scream rang out, then, a figure flew out and fell heavily on the ground, raising a cloud of dust. Everyone looked closely and gasped. Yangling was actually beaten out. Yangling was defeated. Am I dreaming? That the cultivators present were whispering, and their eyes changed significantly when they looked at Baifei, and they were all shocked. After all, Yang Ling's strength was obvious to all, but he was easily defeated by Baifei. If this was told to others, I'm afraid no one would believe it. Damn it! Yang Ling struggled to get up and looked at his fist, which was already bloody. This made his face look very hideous and his eyes cold. He felt that he had suffered a great humiliation, which made him extremely angry. At that moment, Yang Ling's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and a roar rolled out of his throat. Boy, I want you to die. Originally, Yang Ling planned to teach Baifei a lesson, and wanted to use his name as the young king to increase his popularity. But now, Baifei made him look bad in front of so many people, and he had to kill him to vent his hatred. White Tiger transformation. The low roar resounded in Yang Ling's mouth. The next second, an extremely terrifying aura burst out from his body. At the same time, huge changes began to occur on the surface of his body. The originally thin body gradually became strong, and the muscles became developed, like a dragon, full of explosiveness, stimulating people's senses. Countless white animal hairs appeared on the surface of the skin, and the face was distorted and changed, like a tiger, and there was a king on the forehead. When these changes were completed, Yang Ling's aura suddenly broke through to the 7th level of the gathering spirit realm. This surprised everyone present, and they all started to communicate. Yang Ling has stimulated the white tiger blood in his body. Although his white tiger blood is not pure and quite mottled, it still contains a trace of white tiger blood, and the potential for explosion is still very large. The young king may be in trouble. Not necessarily, after all, he is also a young king. Maybe he has some special means. It's possible. Let's see. Many practitioners present were talking at the same time. Some people thought that Baifei would definitely lose, and some people thought that Baifei might not have no means to fight against Yang Ling. Of course, most people's position was on Yang Ling's side. After all, although Baifei was called the young king, many people had only heard of him but had never seen him, so they didn't know what Baifei's true level was. After the transformation, Yang Ling roared in a low voice, just like a fierce tiger, exuding a fierce breath. His eyes also revealed a scarlet look, staring at Baifei, and said coldly, "Boy, you forced me to do this. Now I will send you to the west." As soon as the voice fell, with a swish, Yang Ling disappeared from the spot. The next second, he appeared in front of Baifei, waving his claws and scratching the latter's chest. Yang Ling's speed was very fast, but Baifei's reaction was faster. He kept a calm expression on his face, and the golden sword in his hand moved slightly, and it was horizontal in front of him. Dang! A crisp metal collision sounded, and a strong force burst out between the two, forming a recoil gust, which shook Baifei's body back. Yang Ling's eyes changed slightly when he saw this. He never thought that his sharp claw would only push Baifei back. At that moment, Yang Ling roared again and rushed forward, just like a fierce tiger, with a fierce momentum. Humph! Baifei saw this. His figure flashed, not retreating but advancing. At the same time, the golden sword in his hand was waving quickly, and sword chi crisscrossed and finally shook violently. All these sword chi gathered together and shot out from the golden sword, forming a golden light cone, exuding a sharp breath, piercing Yang Ling who was rushing towards him. At that moment, Yang Ling felt a dangerous breath, which made him feel uneasy, so he forced himself to change his posture, and quickly retracted his claws that had pounced forward, crossing his arms in front of him, trying to use them to resist the impact of this golden light cone. Yang Ling's white tiger bloodline did improve his various attributes. If it were someone else, he would probably not be able to break his defense. It was just a pity that Yang Ling encountered the cheating Baifei. Swish! A crisp piercing sound rang out in the void. The golden light cone directly pierced Yang Ling's arms and hit his chest hard. The huge force took Yang Ling away, a distance of more than 10 meters, and then with a bang, the golden light cone exploded directly, and the terrifying energy fluctuations directly blew Yang Ling away another 10 meters, and then hit him hard on the ground. Chapter 4, Sneak Attack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Yang Ling was smashed to the ground, a cloud of dust was raised, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. The whole place became silent in an instant. He actually defeated Yang Ling. Is it true? Am I seeing it wrong? For a moment, everyone's face showed a very shocked expression, and the eyes looking at Baifei changed very obviously. you know, Yang Ling is a cultivator of the third level of the gathering spirit realm. With the white tiger bloodline in his body, even the cultivators of the seventh level of the gathering spirit realm can't do anything to him. As a result, Baifei defeated Yang Ling with only the strength of the sixth level of the refining body realm, and even killed him instantly. This kind of strength is really too incredible, right? He is worthy of being the young king. The young king is the young king, and he is indeed extraordinary. How can a mere Yang Ling be the opponent of the young king? For a moment, many cultivators standing on Baifei's side shouted in admiration. Many cultivators here are very dissatisfied with Yang Ling. Because Yang Ling relied on his own strength to do a lot of bullying and robbery, and there were many victims, so Baifei's actions were naturally very pleasing to the people. As for Baifei, he gently waved his hand and put the golden sword in his hand into the scabbard behind him. Then he squinted at Yang Ling, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog and couldn't move, and said indifferently, "This time I will spare your life, I hope you can take care of yourself." After saying this, Baifei turned around and walked directly towards Shantian Cemetery. Yang Ling, who was lying on the ground, twitched slightly, and then his tongue rolled with difficulty, swallowing the pill hidden under his tongue into his stomach. At this moment, a strong and gentle energy spread out from Yang Ling's body and spread to his limbs. Yang Ling's injuries began to heal, and the blood holes on his arms were gradually filled up. In just a few seconds, Yang Ling's injuries were more than half healed, and his body was able to move freely. The many cultivators around were shocked to see Yang Ling recover so quickly. Immediately, they stopped staying here and retreated. After all, who knows if Yang Ling will take it out on them? Most of the cultivators here are in the body refining realm, and they don't have the strength like Baifei. Damn young king. Yang Ling gritted his teeth and cursed, and his mood became extremely irritable and angry. He really didn't expect that this young king actually had such a powerful strength. If it weren't for the fact that he had prepared a magic pill, he would probably die here. This is a great shame for Yang Ling. Young king, I will never let you go. He roared in resentment in his heart, and then he struggled to get up, looking at the Shantian cemetery with a hideous face, and his figure flashed, swept out, and entered the Shantian cemetery. Seeing Yang Ling also enter the Shantian cemetery, the cultivators present were all surprised. Yang Ling actually entered the Shantian cemetery. He was injured, but he still went in. Is he looking for death? No, the direction he went seems to be the direction of the young king. Could it be that he is unwilling to give up and wants to seek revenge on the young king? Isn't this just to give up? Forget it, it's none of our business anyway. After entering the Shantian cemetery, Baifei began to move towards the depths. On the way, he naturally encountered many fierce beasts. However, these fierce beasts were all first level and second level, and Baifei could easily deal with them, but he basically avoided them, and he didn't want to spend more of his state on these first and second level fierce beasts. Because the task he had to complete this time was to kill a third level fierce beast. The realm of a third level fierce beast is equivalent to the realm of gathering spirits. With Baifei's current strength, it is more than enough to deal with it. Swish! At this moment, a sharp arrow shot out from the bushes and pierced Baifei's head. Baifei's reaction was naturally very fast. He raised the golden sword in his hand and easily blocked it with a clang. Then, Baifei turned his head and saw a figure hiding in the bushes where the arrow was piercing. It was none other than Yang Ling. Seeing that it was Yang Ling, Baifei's eyes suddenly became cold, and he said in a cold tone, "Yang Ling, you really don't want to drink the wine. Since you want to die so much, I will fulfill your wish." Bang! Baifei stomped his feet heavily on the ground, and then shot out and killed Yang Ling. As for Yang Ling, after failing to hit him, a look of horror appeared on his face, and he quickly turned around and fled. But at this time, Baifei did not intend to let Yang Ling leave like this. He had already spared Yang Ling's life at the entrance of Shantian Cemetery, but Yang Ling still refused to change his ways and tried to assassinate him. How could Baifei allow such a situation to happen? At that moment, the two of them were in the bushes, scurrying around like agile cheetahs chasing. After a while, Yang Ling was forced to the edge of a cliff by Baifei. Baifei said with cold eyes, "Yang Ling, do you have any last words?" When Yang Ling heard this, the fear on his face disappeared completely. Then he turned around, pulled the corners of his mouth slightly, and outlined a cold smile, and then said coldly, "Young king, I'm really sorry, I don't want to die yet, as for the last words. Leave it to you." Yang Ling's words made Baifei sneer. "What nonsense are you talking about? Is this guy crazy?" Hearing this, Yang Ling stopped talking nonsense, and waved his palm directly, and a black object shot towards Baifei. Baifei saw this and couldn't sense any energy fluctuations on it, but for safety reasons, he still raised the golden sword in his hand and split it open. Bang! After the black object was split, a cloud of black mist exploded and rushed towards Baifei. Seeing this, Baifei immediately held his breath. "Is it a toxin?" Baifei thought secretly in his heart, but he found that there was nothing wrong with his body. This made Baifei feel even more strange. At that moment, Baifei looked up at Yang Ling. Chapter 5, Megalodon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yang Ling, what on earth are you doing? Baifei stared at Yang Ling and spoke coldly. When Yang Ling heard this, an evil smile of conspiracy appeared on his face, and he slowly said, "Listen, is there any sound coming this way?" When Baifei heard this, he couldn't help but snorted coldly and said in a cold voice, "Yang Ling, stop playing tricks here, now I will send you to the underworld to see the king of hell." Boom! However, at this moment, the ground suddenly vibrated slightly. The amplitude of the vibration is getting stronger and stronger. At the same time, the boom sound also came from far away and became louder. After a while, Baifei saw a huge beast full of anger rushing towards him. This beast was covered with black hair, big ears and huge teeth, and was extremely ferocious. Giant-toothed pig. Baifei's face suddenly changed, and he couldn't help but exclaimed, "The giant-toothed pig is a third-level beast." However, because its body is extremely terrifying, even a cultivator at the peak of the dueling realm may not be able to suppress it, and may even die in its hands. To a certain extent, the giant-toothed pig can even be compared with the third-level Danyuan realm. This really shocked Baifei. He could never have imagined that Yang Ling would actually attract the giant-toothed pig. You know, the giant-toothed pig usually stays in its own territory and rarely leaves the territory to go to other places. Obviously, the giant-toothed pig is here, which must be Yang Ling's masterpiece. This made Baifei think of the black mist that burst out from the black object he just split. At that moment, Baifei's face changed slightly, his eyes fell on Yang Ling, and he shouted coldly, "What did you do?" Yang Ling just smiled coldly and said, "It's very simple. I refined the pheromone of the giant hog cub into aerosol and sprinkled it on you. Now the giant hog thinks that you stole its cub, so it comes to you for revenge. Young king, just enjoy this gift I gave you." After saying this, Yang Ling turned around and left. "Damn it, stop right there." Baifei cursed and was about to chase Yang Ling. But at this time, the giant hog had already come in front of Baifei, roared angrily, swung his body suddenly, and kicked Baifei's chest with his hind legs. This violent kick of the hind legs directly caused the air to be pierced, and the void emitted a sharp and strange whistle. If Baifei turned around and chased Yang Ling at this time, his back would definitely be attacked. The power of the giant hog was very huge. If Baifei was really hit in the back, he would probably be seriously injured if not dead. In the Shantian cemetery, you must not get hurt, otherwise you will become a piece of loss in the Shantian cemetery. Therefore, Baifei could only curse in his mouth, raise the golden sword in his hand, and hold it horizontally in front of him to resist the attack of the giant hog. It was said that it was too late, and the giant hog's hind legs kicked the golden sword in Baifei's hand fiercely. The huge power exploded on the giant hog's hind legs, forming a strong and fierce wind that swept around. At the same time, Baifei's body was also knocked out, and he was thrown out a distance of more than 10 meters and hit the ground fiercely. At that moment, Baifei felt that his arms were like being hit by an electric current, and they were particularly paralyzed. Moreover, the blood in his body was churning violently, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. Roar! The giant hog roared again and rushed towards Baifei. With a leap, it flew into the air and pounced on Baifei fiercely with the force of a mountain. Seeing this, Baifei's face changed and he quickly rolled to the side. Bang! The giant hog pounced into nothingness, and its huge body slammed heavily on the ground, causing the ground to explode. Countless gravel splashed out, and a big pit appeared with bursts of smoke. After Baifei and the giant hog pulled away, he hurriedly said, "My friend, you misunderstood. I didn't kidnap your cub. It was the man just now, not me." Baifei tried to reason with the giant hog. After all, a third-level beast already has a certain degree of intelligence, but, at this moment, the giant hog was already angry, so how could it listen to Baifei's words? On the contrary, because of what Baifei said, the giant hog became even angrier. "You have the scent of my cub on you, and you still say you didn't kidnap it. Do you think I'm an idiot? I'll kill you." The giant hog thought angrily in his heart, and then his body shook suddenly, and the black hair on his body suddenly stood up, and then swoosh swoosh shot out, like an arrow, flashing a sharp cold light, covering Baifei. "Damn it!" Seeing this, Baifei's face changed, and he immediately waved the golden sword in his hand to resist. Dang dang dang. The crisp sound of metal collision resounded in the void. Although Baifei was extremely fast and responsive, he was waving the golden sword to resist while dodging his body, but he couldn't resist the number of these black hairs, so Baifei was also injured. Baifei also tried to attack the giant hog, however, when the golden sword in Baifei's hand chopped on the surface of the giant hog's body, only a clanging sound could be heard, and sporadic fireworks burst out between the two. Baifei's strength is very strong, and the golden sword in his hand is also very sharp, but unfortunately, the giant hog is comparable to the fourth-level beast, and its defense is indestructible. With Baifei's current strength, it is difficult to kill it, so, after this tossing, Baifei is already wounded and exhausted. "Damn it, what should I do to solve this giant hog?" Baifei cursed in his heart, panting and watching the giant hog in front of him rushing towards him again. He knew very well that he had to find a way to break the situation. If this continues, he will really die here. If he died here, it was very likely that his physical body in the real world would also die. Of course, the more critical the situation was, the calmer Baifei became. He knew very well that if he panicked at this time, he would only make more mistakes, so, while resisting the fierce attack of the giant pig, Baifei was also observing the surrounding environment. Chapter 6, The Three Realms of Martial Arts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If Baifei wanted to escape, it would be very easy. After all, with his skills, it would be easy for him to escape from the hands of the giant hog. Even if the giant hog could sense the pheromones on him, there must be some distance, right? Baifei believed that as long as he exceeded that distance, even if he had the pheromones of the giant hog cub on his body, he would not be able to track him. The reason why Baifei didn't want to escape was just because he didn't want to give up the giant hog. After all, the task he needed to complete when he returned to Shantian Cemetery this time was to hunt a third-level beast. The giant hog was comparable to a fourth-level beast, so it was more than enough to use it to complete the task. Of course, the main reason was that Baifei wanted to test whether the system would give extra rewards for exceeding the task after hunting the giant hog. This was the reason why Baifei didn't escape at the first time, but instead dealt with the giant hog here. Roar! The giant hog roared again, its eyes flashing scarlet, and it rushed towards Baifei again. It was like a big truck, slamming into Baifei fiercely. Baifei narrowed his eyes and remained calm. Facing the giant hog, his body did not move, as if he was hit by a spell, and he stood there. Just when the giant hog was about to hit Baifei, Baifei's eyes suddenly widened, and his feet stomped hard on the ground. With a bang, Baifei's body flew into the air, and then turned in the air, and the long sword in his hand chopped out fiercely. Buzz! At that moment, a sword energy flashed with golden luster, chopped out from the sword body, and chopped fiercely on a mountain wall in front. Baifei knew very well in his heart that it was impossible to break the defense of the giant hog with his current sword energy. Therefore, he had to use a surprise move. This trick is to directly split a crack in the mountain wall and send the giant pig in. That's right, the giant pig's body is hard and the impact force is very fierce, but there is a flaw that it is not flexible enough. Therefore, Baifei wants to use this flaw to jam the giant pig in the crack of the mountain wall. If it can be stuck, then all difficulties will be solved. Of course, if it can't be stuck, then Baifei can only escape. After all, this opportunity is only once. Once missed, the giant pig will never be fooled again. Fortunately, God is on Baifei's side. Bang! The giant pig rushed fiercely, and its huge body crashed straight into the crack of the mountain wall. The sharp giant teeth exposed outside the mouth basin were embedded in the crack of the mountain wall, making it difficult for it to break free. Baifei, who had flipped in mid-air and landed on his feet, saw this scene and showed a relieved expression on his face. Fortunately, it succeeded. Looking at the giant pig stuck in the crack of the mountain wall, Baifei did not hesitate at all, and appeared beside it in a flash. Then Baifei moved his feet, his body flew into the air, jumped onto the back of the giant pig, and held the golden long sword in his hand with his backhand, and stabbed it fiercely in the concave part between the giant pig's eyebrows. The concave part between the giant pig's eyebrows is its weakness, that is the most vulnerable part of the giant pig's body. Therefore, it is very difficult to attack this part of it, because in battle, the giant pig can cover its flesh on both sides, like armor to protect this weakness. But now, the giant pig is stuck in the crack of the mountain wall and is already panicking, so naturally it gives Baifei an opportunity. Swish! The sharp golden sword pierced directly into the weakness of the giant hog, causing it to scream miserably and struggle frantically, trying to throw Baifei off its body. However, Baifei had seized this opportunity, so how could he give up so easily? Baifei held the golden sword tightly with both hands and thrust it hard. Baifei stopped only when the giant hog finally fell to the ground without any strength to struggle. Baifei sat on the back of the giant hog, panting, practicing his skills and restoring his spiritual energy. After a while, Baifei pulled out the golden sword from the giant hog. When Baifei pulled out the golden sword, the giant hog turned into a ray of light and poured into the golden sword. The next second, a stiff and cold voice, like a machine, rang in Baifei's mind. Baifei, you have successfully killed a third-level beast and will be rewarded with 1,000 points. Since the number of beasts killed exceeds the actual mission scope, an additional 500 points will be awarded. Do you want to return now? After hearing these words, Baifei's face showed a hint of understanding, and the corners of his mouth could not help but curl up slightly. It is true. I killed a beast that is stronger than the original mission requirements, so I got an extra reward. The injuries on my body are not in vain. At that moment, Baifei sent out a thought. Return. Buzz. As Baifei's thought fell, his body flashed with a milky white light and disappeared on the spot. The next second, Baifei reappeared in the system space. Baifei exhaled lightly, and then a detail panel appeared in front of Baifei with a thought. Name, Baifei. Spiritual cultivation realm. 6th level of body refining realm. Body refining realm. 6th level of bone refining realm. Soul tempering realm. 1st level of perception. Current points, 1,500. Current items, none. Seeing this detail panel, Baifei's face was surprised. Baifei did not expect that the content presented on this system panel, in addition to his own martial artist realm, also showed the realm of the flesh and the realm of the soul. In the East Xian continent, martial arts prevailed. However, because of this, various cultivation systems have been bred. Under normal circumstances, the East Xian continent is mainly divided into 3 cultivation systems, that is spiritual cultivation realm, body refining realm and soul tempering realm. The spiritual cultivation realm is the mainstream, and all things in the world are based on spiritual energy, making themselves extraordinary. The realm of body refinement is based on the physical body, supplemented by spiritual energy, so that one can cultivate an extremely strong physical body. The realm of soul tempering is based on the soul, so that one can break free from the constraints of matter and travel the world. These are the 3 most popular martial arts realms in Dongxian continent. Chapter 7 Blood Explosion Pill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Baifei had heard about all 3 realms of martial arts. It's just that compared to the realm of spiritual cultivation, body refining and soul quenching, he really doesn't understand it well enough. Moreover, throughout the ages, few people have been able to practice the 3 realms at the same time. After all, human energy is limited. What's more, the realm of body refining and soul tempering is much more difficult than the realm of spiritual cultivation, and certain conditions need to be met, for example, whether your soul power is strong enough, etc. According to legend, if you can cultivate the 3 realms of martial arts to the extreme, you will ascend to immortality and become an immortal and supreme being. However, throughout the ages, no one has ever been able to do it. After all, it's just a legend. But now, Baifei feels that he is very likely to be able to turn this legend into reality. Because he owns this map system. With this map system, Baifei feels that he can attack in 3 ways. Thinking of this, Baifei became a little excited, but soon, he calmed down again. Calm down, those are things for the future. The top priority should be to seize the time to improve your strength. Baifei raised a finger and slid it gently in the void, and another system panel appeared. That's the system mall. There are all kinds of things for sale above: pills, spiritual weapons, martial arts, natural materials and earthly treasures, rare and exotic objects, etc. There are even various exotic beasts. It can be summed up in one word: all-encompassing. I have to say, this really dazzled Baifei. Last time, when he came back after completing the mission, he simply scanned it and exchanged some pills that could improve his realm without studying them carefully. Of course, the main reason was that when he wanted to study last time, Ma Quan suddenly broke in, so he didn't stay in the system for long, so he couldn't study it properly. Qi refining pill is a first-grade elixir. After taking it, you can gather a certain amount of spiritual energy and improve your realm. It can only be used in the body refining realm. The points required for redemption are 100. Rejuvenation pill, a first-grade elixir, can restore a certain amount of spiritual energy after taking it. It can only be used in the body refining realm, and the points required for redemption are 150. Bai Ling Dan. Light spirit sword, a first-grade spiritual weapon. Points required for redemption, 100. Swift wind sword, a second-grade spiritual weapon. Points required for redemption, 200. Xian Gang axe. Tiger hunting fist, a first-grade yellow-level martial arts skill. Points required for redemption, 100. Pagang fist, second-grade Xian-level martial arts. Points required for redemption, 200. After watching for a while, Baifei's eyes felt a little sore, and he couldn't help but lean back. He immediately shook his head, then stretched out his hands and patted his cheeks. There was a thoughtful look in his eyes. You should figure out how to improve your combat power now. Baifei's first idea was to directly exchange the Qi refining pill to improve his level, but in the next second, he killed this idea. It's not realistic to improve your realm. Baifei knew very well in his heart that even if he had raised his level, it was very possible to pass the 9th level. But after passing the 9th level, what he would face was the Blood Sword Sect's Outer Disciple ranking competition. The Outer Sect Disciple ranking competition is a competition for all Outer Sect disciples, and it is also an evaluation of the Outer Sect disciples' strength. The higher the ranking, the more generous the rewards will be, and you can even be qualified to enter the Inner Sect of the Blood Sword Sect and become a disciple of the Inner Sect. There are also many powerful beings among the outer disciples, and there are even some outer disciples whose strength is comparable to that of the inner disciples. Therefore, relying solely on one's own realm is still very unsafe. Therefore, Baifei must have some trump cards. Baifei turned his head slightly and looked at his information panel again. His eyes fell on his 3rd level of martial arts. For now, his spiritual cultivation realm is at the 6th level of the body refinement realm, so he won't think about it for the time being. As for the realm of body refining and soul tempering, Baifei thought that maybe he could improve his physical body first and improve his body refining realm. After fighting against the giant-toothed boar, Baifei understood very well that if his physical body had been strong enough, he might not have needed to work so hard. Thinking of this, Baifei raised his finger, slid through the system mall, and fixed his eyes on an item. Explosive blood pill, a second-grade elementary elixir. After taking it, it can temper the physical body and make it more powerful. Points required for redemption, 200. When Baifei saw this, he immediately exchanged 3 blood-exploding pills. The exchange was successful and I got 3 blood-explosive pills. The remaining points are 900. When Baifei heard this, his mind moved, and his consciousness returned to his hut. Without any hesitation, he directly threw the explosive blood pill into his mouth. Kakaka. When the explosive blood pill entered Baifei's body, a violent force of medicine burst out and spread to his limbs and bones. At that moment, Baifei felt as if his entire body was being burned by flames, and he was in immense pain. Baifei knew that this was the power of the explosive blood pill at work, tempering his body and removing impurities from his body. At that moment, Baifei's body began to undergo amazing changes. His muscles gradually tightened, his bones gradually hardened, and his meridians gradually became tough. Of course, Baifei also felt very intense pain. However, he still gritted his teeth and persevered. After lasting for about an incense stick of time, Baifei finally felt the burning pain in his body gradually dissipate. At that moment, Baifei circulated the spiritual energy in his body and began to expel and relieve his fatigue. After a while, Baifei opened his mouth and exhaled a breath of turbid air. At this moment, Baifei felt that his whole body was full of energy and refreshed, as if he had endless power. This made Baifei's face appear faintly smiling. I don't know which level I have broken through to. Baifei thought secretly in his heart, and then he was ready to see how many realms he had broken through to in the realm of body refining. Suddenly, there was a noisy sound outside the door. Then, the knocking sound of dong 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 continued. Along with the violent knocks on the door, there was also a burst of angry curses outside. Baifei, you dead waste, why don't you come out to work quickly? Baifei, come out here. Hearing these words, Baifei frowned slightly, and when he was about to get up and open the door, he heard a loud bang. Chapter 8 Zhou Hai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A huge noise sounded in the void, and the door that had been broken for a long time suddenly broke into pieces, making Baifei's face suddenly gloomy. Then, a group of figures rushed in from outside. Looking at Baifei's figure, their faces were full of contempt and disdain. Damn, what is so smelly? Damn, why is Baifei so smelly? Haven't you taken a shower for a few days? The figures coming in from outside were all errand disciples of the Blood Sword sect, except for one person. He was a young man who looked about the same age as Baifei, but the clothes he wore were quite gorgeous, completely different from the cloth clothes of other errand disciples. Baifei recognized his origin. This was an outer disciple of the Blood Sword sect, named Zhou Hai. In Baifei's memory, Zhou Hai had a very arrogant personality and acted in an extremely domineering manner. He was a typical second-generation ancestor. Baifei was often bullied, and even this time he was injured because of Zhou Hai. The reason why Zhou Hai is so arrogant is because he has a powerful brother named Zhou Yulin. Zhou Yulin is one of the top 10 outer disciples. It is also because of this that Zhou Hai, relying on Zhou Yulin as a backer, is domineering in the outer sect, and many menial disciples are bullied by him and dare not even raise their heads. Of course, more importantly, Zhou Hai manages a spiritual field because of Zhou Yulin. He is responsible for supervising the work of menial disciples in the spiritual field. If the workload cannot be completed, Zhou Hai will definitely beat and scold them unscrupulously. For example, Baifei has been working under Zhou Hai recently. It's just that because he was injured, he asked Ma Quan for instructions, and he will complete the workload of the previous 3 days at a time later, so he didn't report to Zhou Hai. However, because Baifei didn't report, Zhou Hai didn't know the situation. So the output of the spiritual field became less, which made Zhou Hai very angry. After all, he couldn't embezzle it. So he directly summoned the errand disciples to check the situation. It turned out that Baifei had not gone to the spiritual field to work for several days. How could Zhou Hai tolerate this? He brought people to hold Baifei accountable. Baifei, who told you not to go to the spiritual field to work? Zhou Hai glared at Baifei and shouted in a cold tone, angry. Hearing this, Baifei frowned slightly and slowly said, Zhou Hai, listen to my explanation. However, how could Zhou Hai listen to Baifei's explanation? The benefits in his pocket were reduced, which meant that he would have less resources for cultivation this month, which meant that he would have to spend less time. How could he tolerate such a thing? Asshole, you are an errand disciple, but you don't work hard in the peak. You just know how to be lazy here and sleep here for 3 consecutive days. Do you want me to ask you to work? Who gave you the face? The more he talked, the angrier he became. The more he thought about it, the more annoyed he became. Zhou Hai was not a man who would tolerate. He took 2 steps forward and raised his palm to slap Baifei's cheek. Baifei is dead. Who made him so unlucky? With the reduction in production, Zhou Hai can't get any benefits. How can he not be angry, that the many errand disciples standing behind Zhou Hai looked at the scene in front of them, their eyes full of sarcasm and indifference, and whispered, for them, Zhou Hai was a bully, and they didn't dare to resist at all. Of course, it was mainly because they looked down on Baifei, so even if Baifei was beaten to death, they would not help. Baifei saw that Zhou Hai slapped him without giving him a chance to explain, which made his eyes suddenly become cold. Originally, he was going to settle the matter peacefully, but since the other party was so aggressive, he couldn't blame him. After all, if it was the previous Baifei, he would not have the ability to resist, but now it is different. Now he has reached the 6th level of the body refining realm, not to mention that he just took the blood explosion pill to strengthen his body. It is simply impossible for Zhou Hai to deal with him. Bang! Before Zhou Hai's palm touched Baifei, Baifei had already quickly raised his right foot and kicked out. The next second, Zhou Hai's body flew out like a broken scarecrow, flew out of the door directly, and hit the ground hard. Who is that? I don't know. Take a look. There were many disciples gathered outside the door. Seeing someone flying out of the house, they were full of curiosity and looked over. As a result, when they looked closely and found that it was Zhou Hai, they were all shocked. Damn, why is it Zhou Hai? Why did Zhou Hai fly out? What happened? Who cares what happened? That's Zhou Hai. Get away quickly, otherwise it will be bad if he thinks of you. For a while, many disciples were like mice seeing a cat, hiding far away. As for the errand disciples who followed Zhou Hai, they were all shocked. Some people even couldn't help rubbing their eyes, worried that they had seen it wrong. As a result, reality told them very clearly that the person who flew out was indeed Zhou Hai. I'll go. What the hell? What's going on? This Baifei, how did he suddenly become so strong? Many disciples' eyes changed when they looked at Baifei, and they were horrified. Even Zhou Hai never expected that Baifei's strength would be so strong. He didn't even see how the opponent kicked him away just now. At that moment, Zhou Hai felt as if his internal organs had been moved by mistake, and they were burning and extremely painful. He stood up with difficulty, looking at Baifei with a ferocious face and a cold tone. Baifei, you are so brave. How dare you attack me? You are impatient with life, aren't you? Baifei slowly walked out of the room, an invisible and powerful aura overflowing from his body, causing the disciples around him to retreat one after another, not daring to compete with him. Baifei's eyes fell on Zhou Hai's sinister face, and he said in a calm tone, "You were the one who made the move first, I just had to defend myself." Fart. It's obvious that you were absent from work, and I came to hold you accountable. Not only did you refuse to accept it, you also attacked me. You are disobedient. Chapter 9 Ma Quan rescues. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at Baifei, Zhou Hai roared angrily. It has to be said that he is still a little clever. In fact, Zhou Hai knew very well that he had to have a legitimate reason to deal with Baifei, otherwise he would not be able to stand in front of his disciples. You must know that the Blood Sword sect clearly stipulates that fellow sects are not allowed to kill each other, at least on the surface. That's what it looks like. Therefore, Zhou Hai must use a legitimate reason to deal with Baifei and let Baifei be punished. It has to be said that Zhou Hai's wishful thinking was very loud. It's a pity that Zhou Hai's plan is destined to be in vain, because Ma Quan had come to see him before, and Baifei had personally promised that he would use one day to complete 3 days' worth of work. Therefore, with Ma Quan endorsing him, he doesn't need to care about Zhou Hai at all. Of course, with so many disciples present, Baifei felt that he also needed to explain, so Baifei said calmly, "Zhou Hai, I have already reported this matter to Manager Ma Quan, and he has agreed to let me rest and recuperate first. It was you who broke into my house with your men and didn't give me any chance to explain. You just wanted to beat me. I had no choice but to fight back. If you don't believe it, how about we go to Manager Ma Quan and explain?" That when Baifei said these words, he remained calm, and aboveboard from beginning to end, and did not look like he was absent from work at all. This caused many disciples around to talk about it. It doesn't look like Baifei is lying. Indeed, Baifei is quite honest and shouldn't be able to lie. That's right, he usually works very hard. It seems Zhou Hai misunderstood him. Hush. You are looking for death. If Zhou Hai hears you talking about him, he will have to skin you. That when Zhou Hai heard this, his face became even more ugly. He could see that what Baifei said was true, but precisely because it was true, Zhou Hai felt even worse, because Zhou Hai relies on his brother Zhou Yulin's relationship. He is domineering in the outer sect, but this guy Ma Quan has repeatedly opposed him. What makes Zhou Hai even more annoyed is that he can't take action against Ma Quan yet. Although Ma Quan is just a small warrior at the 9th level of the body refining realm, there is an Elder Chiu supporting him. Although Elder Chiu is only an outer elder, his own realm has already broken through to the alchemy realm, which is definitely not comparable to that of his brother Zhou Yulin. It is precisely because of this that Zhou Hai hates Ma Quan very much and wants to get rid of him quickly. After all, there was such a guy pressing on his head, which naturally made Zhou Hai feel very unhappy. Therefore, Zhou Hai became even more angry when he heard that Baifei was reporting Ma Quan. Baifei, you are my subordinate now. Even if you want to do something, you must report it to me and get my consent. If you don't get my consent, you are absent from work and must be punished. Baifei said calmly. You mean, you have more say than Ma Quan's steward? Good. Zhou Hai shouted coldly, I have more say over you. Yeah. At this moment, a cold voice sounded among the crowd. Immediately afterwards, a middle-aged man wearing steward's clothes came out, looked at Zhou Hai with a cold expression, and said in a cold tone, Zhou Hai, you mean to say that Baifei is going to me, a taller man? It's not possible to report to the manager, so I have to report to you, an outer disciple. Ma Quan. Zhou Hai's eyes widened slightly, and immediately there was a hint of fear in his eyes, and then he said in a deep voice, Guanshi Ma, you are indeed a higher level than me, but no matter what, Baifei belongs to me now and works in the work area that I am responsible for, so if anything happens to him, he should report it to me. Although Manager Ma is indeed higher than me, there are sect rules in the sect. If you do this, wouldn't you break the rules? If everyone can do this, then what order can there be in this sect? Zhou Hai's words made Ma Quan, who had his hands behind his back, sneer, okay, Zhou Hai, don't use the sect's rules to pressure me. After Baifei told me about this matter, I already sent someone to inform you. And his position has also been changed, so there is no problem with him being absent from work at all. If you don't believe it, go back and review it yourself. Anyway, Baifei is working here now. If he has any problems in the future, you shouldn't have to worry about him. That when Zhou Hai heard this, his expression suddenly became even more ugly. He really didn't expect that Ma Quan would actually do something like this. This made Zhou Hai laugh angrily, nodded repeatedly, and said in a cold voice, okay, very good, very good. Ma Quan, you can do it, but you actually did this. Zhou Hai already knew very well that there was no way to deal with Baifei today. He glanced at Baifei with cold eyes, and said with a sinister look, Baifei, I will remember this account today. Just wait, I will make you pay 100 times the price in the future. Baifei just responded calmly. I'll be waiting for you anytime. Let's go. Zhou Hai stopped talking nonsense and took his people away. Ma Quan also frowned and shouted coldly at this time, what are you all doing here? Don't you have to work? Disperse quickly. Hearing Ma Quan's words, many disciples also dispersed. Seeing this, Ma Quan turned around and came to Baifei, asking, are you okay? Baifei shrugged his shoulders, shook his head, and said with a smile, that guy can't do anything to me. Thank you for what happened today, brother Ma. Ma Quan just waved his hand and said lightly, it's okay. It's just that you have completely offended Zhou Hai today. He won't let you go so easily. Looking at Baifei, Ma Quan's face also showed a solemn expression. I suggest you pass the 9 levels as soon as possible and become a formal disciple of the outer sect. In this way, even if Zhou Hai wants to touch you again, he will have to think about it carefully. Baifei knew that Ma Quan was right. Zhou Hai suffered a loss today and would definitely not compromise easily. Chapter 10, Spiritual Infusion Device. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Therefore, if you want to avoid Zhou Hai's revenge, you must become an outer disciple. menial disciples are the most humble in the blood sword sect. Although there are clear regulations that fellow disciples are not allowed to kill each other, but as long as they are not discovered, even if menial disciples are killed, the sect will not interfere too much, but becoming an outer disciple is different. That means you are a formal disciple. The blood sword sect has resources tilted towards formal disciples and they can be trained, therefore, the importance of outer disciples is naturally much higher. In addition, once you can get the favor of the elders and become the elders' disciples, it will be even more amazing. Therefore, outer disciples rarely fight to the point of life and death. After all, there are too many relationships involved behind this. This is also why Ma Quan wants Baifei to pass the 9 levels as soon as possible and become an outer disciple. Baifei knew that Ma Quan was doing this for his own good, so he nodded gently and said, "Brother Ma, don't worry, I will go through the 9 levels as soon as possible." Yes. Ma Quan nodded and said, "Don't worry, as for the workload you owed before, I can help you eliminate some of it, but you also know the rules. Before becoming an outer disciple, your identity has always been a menial disciple, so you must work all the time. I can help you exempt some of the workload, but there is still a part of the workload that you must repay." Baifei thought about it and said to Ma Quan, "How about this, Brother Ma, I will make up for the workload I owed before today." "Are you sure?" Ma Quan raised his eyebrows and asked, "Have your injuries healed? Are you sure you don't want to rest for a few more days?" "Thank you for your concern, Brother Ma, but I'm almost well and don't need to rest anymore." Hearing Ma Quan's question, Baifei shook his head gently, which meant there was no problem. After all, Ma Quan has always taken great care of him. If he can reduce Ma Quan's burden, Baifei is still very happy to do it. Although Ma Quan is the manager of the outer sect, his authority is not very high. If he really helps Baifei to offset some of the workload of the menial disciples, he will definitely add a lot of pressure to himself. Baifei doesn't want Ma Quan to add unnecessary pressure to himself for him, so he plans to solve the previous workload while he has time today. "Okay, since you have already said so, then you come with me." Ma Quan heard this and stopped talking nonsense, turned around and walked away. Baifei naturally followed him. After a while, Baifei came to a spiritual field under the leadership of Ma Quan. This spiritual field is planted with a lot of spiritual herbs. This spiritual field has not been irrigated yet, just irrigated today. Looking at Baifei, Ma Quan said the task he was going to do. Baifei was a little surprised when he heard this. He didn't expect that the task Ma Quan gave him was so simple. Watering the spiritual field, in fact, is to irrigate the spiritual grass, which means fertilizing the rice field. This kind of work is the easiest, because there are magic tools to assist. In general, this work is done by outer disciples, because magic tools are needed, and magic tools need spiritual energy to drive. For example, if an errand disciple wants to get this job, it needs to pay a lot of price, or there are some other factors that may appear. Anyway, Baifei has never enjoyed such a job since he became an errand disciple. Baifei is also very clear in his heart that Ma Quan gave him such an easy job, in addition to taking care of himself, more to show his kindness to himself. After all, if he really becomes an outer disciple, it is equivalent to Ma Quan having another outer disciple as a friend. So he will be more confident. Therefore, Baifei did not refuse this kindness. He knew that always rejecting the former's kindness would be counterproductive. He said to Ma Quan, "Thank you, Brother Ma." Hearing this, Ma Quan smiled a little more. He raised his palm, and a light flashed on his palm. Then, a magic weapon appeared in his palm. Baifei looked over and saw that this magic weapon looked like a round plate, with several slots on it, and the slots were inlaid with crystal clear crystals, which were spirit stones. There were many patterns carved on the surface of the whole round plate, which looked very mysterious. Baifei recognized the origin of this magic weapon, which was the spiritual irrigation device used to irrigate the spirit field. The spiritual irrigation device uses the spiritual energy contained in the spirit stone to combine with a kind of medicinal material in the spirit irrigation device, and then dilutes it into a medicinal liquid to irrigate the spirit field, so that the spiritual herbs planted in the spirit field can grow faster. "Do you recognize this thing?" Looking at Baifei, Ma Quan asked. Baifei nodded. "Yes, this is a spirit irrigation device." "Do you know how to use it?" Baifei shook his head, so Ma Quan demonstrated it again. I have already installed the spirit stones, you just need to control it to irrigate the spirit field. I understand, thank you brother Ma. Come on. After Ma Quan handed the spirit irrigator to Baifei, he left here. Baifei did not hesitate at all and immediately controlled the spiritual irrigation device to start watering the spiritual field. I have to say that this kind of work is really easy. If nothing unexpected happens, Baifei can complete this work in about 2 hours. It's just a pity that when you don't want accidents to happen, accidents always come to you. After about half an hour of watering, Baifei heard a burst of hurried footsteps coming towards this side. Baifei looked at the sound and frowned immediately, because the person coming towards him was none other than Zhou Hai, who was kicked out by Baifei not long ago. In addition to Zhou Hai, there were many errand disciples, and a person he didn't know, who looked like an outer disciple, because the clothes he wore were exactly the same as Zhou Hai, but unlike Zhou Hai, the breath exuded by this outer disciple was very strong, completely different from that of ordinary outer disciples. There was a different kind of coercion on him. Spirit gathering realm. Baifei narrowed his eyes. Needless to say, the one who could make him feel such pressure must be a much stronger being than him. Besides the spirit gathering realm, he really couldn't think of anything else.